This is Secret America with your hosts, Jack Danger and James Clary.
Welcome, everybody. I am Jack Danger, along with James Clary. How you doing, James?
Good, brother. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's great to see you, too. We have an excellent special guest for you today. It is documentary filmmaker and investigative reporter. He is actually the filmmaker behind Trafficked and behind Operation Amber Alert, the excellent USAID documentary. We're going to welcome in Ryan Matta right now. Ryan, how you doing today, man?
Jack and James, so excited to be here, brother. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no, we're excited to have you here. And I know James is really excited. There's so many things he wanted to discuss with you. So I'm going to let him have the floor and talk to you about it.
Yeah, well, you know, the impetus for this interview was our talk with Dinesh D'Souza. And obviously, we covered his film, and I did press him, I would say, lightly on some of the issues that many of us on the right side have with Israel. And he countered, you know, like Dinesh does. He's a very smart, reasonable man. But it just didn't sit right with me. And I saw some of your posts on X. And let me just start with that, Ryan. I mean, how would you respond? I don't know if you've seen Dinesh's film, but I think you know the premise of it pretty much. How would you respond to Dinesh's supposition that basically there's almost this mystical relationship between the Jewish people and the Christian right in America, and almost that we have an obligation to support Israel no matter what?
You know, that's probably literally the question of the century. I don't know how our country got here because I wasn't into politics until recently, right? I didn't have this. I wasn't really big into following the whole Israel and how much power Israel has over our country. You know, my journey kind of started with just being a normal podcaster. You know, 3 or 4 years ago, if you would have talked about Joe Biden or Trump in my podcast, I would have kicked you out. I was just a Bitcoiner, right? I didn't want to hear it. I wanted to focus on crypto and Bitcoin, and I didn't want to, you know, hear the rhetoric because I was just uneducated about it. So it's hard to talk about and have conversations on topics where you're really completely illiterate on. So then that turned into my YouTube channel getting demonetized. And, you know, this was after COVID, right? So I got put into the podcasting realm because, you know, our government shut down all, you know, the entire country and bankrupted a business I spent 4 years building. And then you start kind of trying to figure out these questions and trying to rebuild your life from scratch. And I was bigger into cryptocurrency back in 2015. So I knew crypto. I got on and started talking about crypto, and my channel just kind of took off. And then all of a sudden one day that was right when the FTX collapse happened. So when the big crypto exchange collapsed and the Sam Bankman-Fried stole all that money, and you had Tucker Carlson talking about him being a mini Madoff, then we had the fake news talking about him just being a kid. And the first time I kind of saw the two sides. And then that made me go and start Googling, like, what's the best Trump speech that he ever gave? And then I get hit with an ad on YouTube, a 60-second ad of Hillary Clinton telling me what a bad dude Trump was. And that's when it dawned on me. That's when I really go, wait, I'm watching some propaganda here. I can't even skip this ad. I'm being forced. I want to watch the president who was the president of the United States. I want to hear this man speak. In order for me to hear him speak, I have to listen to an ad about Hillary Clinton tell me what a loser this guy is. And I was just like, I was mind blown, right? So you start going down these rabbit holes, and it's like Nick Fuentes said it best. He's like, we didn't just wake up here one day and start blaming Israel and the Jays for everything, right? You guys pushed us here. We've gotten to a point in America where the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is no longer on the table for 99% of Americans. If you don't own property, you don't own real estate right now, you're priced out for all of eternity. That means your kids are priced out for all of eternity. That means you are going to be a slave by definition. You are going to be taxed. Our government's taking 53. If you are a 9-to-5 worker, our government is taking 53% of every penny you make. Okay. And then you start going, wait, our founding fathers fought a revolution over a 3% tax. Like these were some badass dudes, right? Some freedom loving mother effers that were like, oh, you want to tax us 3% on some tea? how about we throw that tea in the harbor and we can start this war and get this party started? So how do we go from that to where we get to a point where we're being taxed 53% of every penny we make? Like, what logical American citizen is going to go, I'm going to vote for this party or this system that's going to tax me more? And maybe, you go
Right.
through, okay, maybe in the 30s, it was like, oh, all right, we'll vote the Republicans in. And then the Republicans came in party. Then it was, oh, we'll vote the Democrats in. And then it's back to the Republicans. After a few times of back and forth, you think your nation would wake up and go, this system that we have designed here is no longer serving we the citizens, because no right-minded American citizen, especially if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, right? And your parents are 65 and they can't even retire because they're being forced into this forever debt slavery. And we've created a system here where it's getting to the point where you're never going to escape it. Like the ability, even when I was a kid, right? When I was 18, like if I wanted to go start a mom and pop business, that was definitely on the table, right?
Yeah.
A bit of capital. You could even work a little bit of overtime, raise some money, and start a clothing line. You could start a barber shop. You could start a nail salon. You could start a business. You could do anything you want. You could start a bakery.
Open a restaurant like I did in '89. Yeah.
And now, could you imagine trying to open a restaurant from scratch today?
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
But it's funny
Couldn't
that
do it. You're right, Ryan. I couldn't do it.
No,
So
and it's
where
funny
did
that you
America-
mentioned the tax thing, though, right? Because we were founded basically on the tax thing. That's basically what started everything. And then we slipped this thing into the Constitution, where now the government has free reign to tax us as much as they want without any recourse for us. I mean, if they
Tax
call
our
something
labor. Yeah.
if they call something a tax, like the whole health insurance mandate thing, right? Tax versus penalty. If it's a penalty, they can't do it. If they call it a tax, they can do whatever the hell they want now. You're right. I wonder, how did we get to this point?
Well, let me reel it back in. So 'cause I think those are all great points. How does this tie to the Israel question?
So that's where, it seems like every member of our government, all they're worried about is serving Israel. We've brought 9 bills this year to the floor that are pro-Israel bills. How many pro-American bills have we brought to the floor in the last 20 years? It seems like every time we get bipartisan anything, it means the American people are absolutely getting the shaft. And our politicians no longer serve us. We have somebody like Tina Peters, right? Tina Peters is rotting in a jail cell. And the reason I'm purposely talking about all these things is because all of this is more important to Americans than whatever the hell is going on overseas. But it's every day, all of our politicians, it's just Israel, Israel, Israel. It's all we hear. And people like Dinesh are like, oh, well, all you guys are all focused on, it's always Israel. It's always the Jays. It's because every single day, our politicians are reminding us how they serve Israel over us. Tucker Carlson did an amazing interview. I forget what the gentleman's name was. He's some expert that has spent, the last 40 years in Washington, D.C. He's called basically every financial collapse. He's called every war. This guy is just like shooting it straight.
David Sachs, maybe, or Jeffrey Sachs.
Jeffrey Sachs was one of them. This wasn't him. It might have been the other guy. I forget what his name was, but in the conversation, Tucker goes, he's talking about something about Israel and the relationships and how our politicians in Washington, D.C. And Tucker goes, well, that doesn't sound very American first. And this guy came back with, the regurgitated, well, technically Israel's our greatest ally type of thing. And Tucker goes, no, but that's not what I'm saying. Let me rephrase that. Tucker goes, is there one time in the last 40 years in Washington, D.C., where you ever have seen something come up, right? And our politicians have to vote, okay? And you look at this one thing and you go, okay, that's in the best interest of America. We should vote on that, but it's not in the best interest of Israel. Has there ever been one time in 40 years in the entire history of the last 40 years, where our politicians chose to vote in favor of something if it didn't benefit Israel? And he said, no, not one time. We are an occupied nation. So at what point do you think, what American do you think is waking up going, yep, you know what? I want to send $40 billion of my tax dollars this year to Israel.
Right.
And AIPAC owns everybody. I mean, you've seen what happened on October 7th. After that happened, almost every single congressman outside their congressional door, in the Capitol, had a sign that said, I stand with Israel. Almost every single one of them.
And let's talk about October 7th. We made the point on this show. To me, the parallels between that and 9/11 are frightening. With no help for 6 hours in the most surveilled state, we know that the Israeli government has actually funded Hamas. Now, you're trying to tell me you didn't know this attack was coming and they caught you with your pants down, like you said, and It was totally, it's patently obvious to me anyway that this was somehow a planned attack that at the very least they had foreknowledge, just like George Bush and his cronies did on 9/11. And I don't know. It's the good news is because of people like you, Ryan, it seems like many logical reason people are starting to wake up.
Yeah, no, and I thank you for that. And it's not just me, you know, it's Jake Shields, it's the Truth Tellers, it's Ian Malcolm, it's Base Sam Parker, it's, you know, Wolf and these guys that put together
Sam
GQ
Parker.
Radio on X. I mean, these guys are the legends that have literally lost everything. You know, for the last 2 years, I wasn't talking about Israel. I didn't know much about it. I couldn't even tell you where Israel is on a map. I didn't even know, honestly, 4 years ago, I never even heard the word Israel. I'll say that, like, straight up, never knew what Israel was, never seen an Israeli flag, had no idea what Israel, that it even existed. It was even a country. That's how clueless I was to politics. Okay. And then now I'm in a position where, like, I'm risking, here I am again. I built up a massive following on X. I've lost 3 YouTube channels, well, at least been demonetized on 3. I've lost a 4th, completely nuked off. I've lost 12 TikTok accounts. I'm on my 3rd Instagram. I'm on my 2nd or 3rd X account now. Not since Elon. I haven't lost one since Elon's been back.
Yeah, same here.
Permanently banned on LinkedIn. The only thing I managed to keep is my Facebook somehow because I never posted on it. Okay.
Right.
So I've been so censored, and I got most of my censorship came before I even started talking about Israel. That's the craziest part about this. I just lost this for talking about freedom and trying to fight for President Trump. You know, I got a photo. I don't know if you can see it back there. That's an autographed photo of Trump. I was literally joined LFA TV when I lost my YouTube channel to become like the most ultra MAGA pro Trump, you know, and run this movement and try to get this man elected, because I thought for sure after they tried to put his son in jail, after these politicians destroyed our country, after, you know, they opened our borders and killed millions of American citizens, after the clot shots with Dr. Fauci, you know, I thought that for sure we were going to get some type of accountability. And then when, you know, and everybody was rah Trump in the beginning, and it was, oh, don't worry, Kash Patel, he's only been in there for 30 days. Pam Bondi on her 30th day in office. I don't even know if it was 30 days. It might have been like her 2nd or 3rd week in office. Okay. So I specialize in government funded child trafficking. That's like my area of expertise. I would much rather be talking about how to rescue children than I would be talking about Israel controlling our government. But here we are. Okay. So, and that's part of the PSYOP, is that you don't have time. Like, we all have issues that we should be focusing on that affect us as American citizens. And instead we spend a majority of our time talking about Israel, because unless we get Israel's death grip on our politicians removed, our country's toast. Like, we don't have a country. There's nothing else more important to talk about, even though that there's, you know, 480,000 children that are being kidnapped by the United States government every year. And that's by CPS. And that's according to CPS's own data in 2019.
And much worse. Yeah, much worse under Joe Biden too.
Oh yeah, Joe Biden. Then you had the migrant children, and then you have 452,121 migrant children ages 0 to 17 arrived at our border from January 1st of 2021 until basically Trump walked down that elevator. It was actually until October of 2024. 452,000 children. Our government took physical possession of all of them. Once a migrant children arrives at the U.S. border without a parent, they become property of the United States government. Our government took physical possession of them, put them into this shelter care system while they vetted the adult, while HHS was responsible for vetting the adult that those children went to. They delivered them across state lines, trafficked these children across state lines, handed them over to some random illegal immigrant who just invaded our country, and they could not find 350,000 of them. Now, the Trump administration has found 30,000 of them. I think it's like up to like 32 now are dead. Are dead. They're never coming back to life. They're never seeing their parents again. They're never going to spend a Thanksgiving. They're never going to spend a Christmas. They're never going to celebrate another birthday, because your government, America, took possession of them and choose to create this Ponzi scheme like vetting system, these background checks that like anybody that's filling out a job resume could get. And they delivered these children into a network of pedophiles. America is the #1 consumer of child porn, #1 consumer of child rape, #1 consumer of child ritual sacrifice, and the #1 consumer of all hard narcotics. America is the absolute last country you'd want your child to be lost in. And our government delivered 350,000 children into a network of pedophiles.
Well, and not to mention, you kind of skipped over it, but the whole CPS thing, I'm very aware of that corrupt, evil organization and what they do to parents. They violate the Constitution. We could spend a whole show on that. As a matter of fact, I'll talk to you later. I'd love to have you on my radio show just to address Child Protective Services. It's just, stay down, Bob. Down, Bob.
No, but they've been kidnapping people from their parents. I mean, basically, that's basically what they do at this point. And you know, that's why when you're talking about Israel, though, that's why I like people like Thomas Massey and them who don't really take money from AIPAC, you know, because almost every single one of our Congress people do now.
They were talking about it on the Tim Pool show, I believe it was, that they literally go around with QR codes. Like, so the politician basically has a QR code on their badge or on their back. And like, there's a bunch of AIPAC people and you're going up to a table and you're like, hi, I'm Ryan Matta. I would love to show, I think Israel's the greatest nation in the world. And what we can do for you is, I got a $50 million a year budget and I'm willing to give 10% of our state budget to Israel and like scan my QR code, please. Right. And like, that's how bad it's got. But to add to your comment, James, about CPS. So I have a documentary on CPS that's going to literally probably get me killed. If anything happened to me, I would never kill myself. I'm never suicidal. But every single person, including Nancy Schaefer, a U.S. senator who was literally putting a documentary together on CPS, was literally found dead in her bed. Allegedly, her and her husband, who are like 80 years old, like they're ideal grandparents, right?
I know that story. Yeah.
Yep. She was shot in the stomach, and then he allegedly turned around and turned the gun on himself and shot himself in the stomach. It was considered a double murder homicide or murder suicide, case closed, and her documentary never released. And that was like a couple months prior to her documentary supposed to be released.
Yep.
And that's,
so you got to be careful too. You got to be really careful right before it's about to be released.
Yeah, I've already got it out to 7 different people. So no matter if they killed me right now, it would probably be even better. It would make it even more mega. It would be the biggest documentary of the year if they fucking killed me at this point.
That's true.
I've got to ask you about something else. I want to change direction a little bit. You posted and you mentioned Bass Sam Parker, and I just found his channel because of you, by the way. But the recent revelations, I want you to talk about this because I'm not sure our audience knows about this. The recent revelations of these internet sleuths like yourself, like Sam Parker, on Google Trends and what they found. Can you talk specifically what they found in relation to Google searches and the Charlie Kirk assassination? I'll just let you take it.
Yeah, so let's dive into this. Sam Parker, and I forget the guy's name. There's actually one gentleman, and I really wish I could give him credit for it. Sam Parker does in all of his posts, so you guys can see his work over there. But this gentleman started to go into Google Trends and Google searches. So what's unique about Google searches is when you're searching a keyword in Google, you could just type in, anybody that is watching along, just go open up Google Trends on your computer, and then you can literally search for a phrase. And then as you search for that phrase, you can tell how popular it is. So like a lot of YouTubers out there already know this because we're looking for trends. You can search specifically on YouTube. You can search specifically on Google. You can search all these different basically criteria or categories and basically narrow down your searches. So, if you're searching for somebody like, I don't know, President Trump, it's common that President Trump's probably going to be searching Israel. He's going to be searching Thailand. He's going to be searching a bunch of different places, right?
Right.
Somebody like Tyler Robinson, a man that we've never heard of, that really isn't a necessarily common name, that was researched for in Israel, which was, I believe it was like 2 months prior to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So why is somebody in Israel randomly searching a name like Tyler Robinson? Well, then that's kind of what triggered this whole like tsunami of sleuths out there that started to dig into it. Right. Then we started to find out what was recently, Sam Parker just exposed yesterday, was there was a judge. So I forget the guy's name. Maybe you guys know the judge.
It. Yeah, Robert Lunan.
Yep.
Was the judge that replaced Tony Graff?
Tony Graff. Yeah. So Tony Graff and Judge Robert Lunan, so Lunan's retiring. And if you look at some of the judges, and I'm just kind of pulling this out of my butt here, but most judges, it seems like they're basically geriatric. Like they're going into a nursing home before they're retiring. This Judge Lunan dude still looks young. He looks sharp. He looks bright. He doesn't look like somebody that's just randomly going to retire, but for some reason he is. That name was being searched in Israel. I believe it was in like 2 months prior or 3 months prior. I forget what the order was. I actually have them here.
I think it was May and then July.
May and July. Yes, May and July it was.
And then the new judge takes over in August?
Yeah, so it was on around May 1st, Robert Lunan was searched. And then it looks like in the beginning of July, you have Tony Graff searched. Now, Tony Graff was this judge. He got appointed on August 4th. Mm-hmm. And Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September 10th. So 35 days, 40 days, give or take. Later, this judge who was randomly getting searched in Israel is now spearheading the most important investigation or trial that we basically will have this century. I don't think that there's ever going to be one more prominent. I mean, this is like OJ status for the most part, Casey Anthony status. Yeah. And what's crazy about it, you remember the Casey Anthony trial? Nancy Grace had play-by-play every night going on. They had reporters surrounding the person's homes. There was people camped out in front of the lawn on these people's property, at the sidewalk, mile-long circus of reporters just hoping to one day catch a glimpse of a mom, a dad, an aunt, an uncle, a brother. And then all of a sudden, this Tyler Robinson, we haven't even seen the parents. We haven't seen Lance. We haven't seen anybody. And none of the narrative that the FBI is feeding us is adding up. So we can start from the beginning. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask you one thing. What about the rumor? And I want to know if you know if this is true or not. What about the rumor that Tyler Robinson's father is actually the one that owned like the cement company that kind of overdid the crime scene?
So that's a really unique rabbit hole, and I believe it was actually his mother's name who was on the company website of or in some type of search of some tax fraud or Crunchbase or something that showed that her name was attached to this specific company, and that specific company was awarded the contract to redo the crime scene. Now, I haven't confirmed or like really went. I've seen a couple of these short videos, but you know how good it is when people are making up bull crap. Like, so possibility it's real. It's definitely one of those subjects that you want to search yourself. But like, what are the odds of that company would get the contract to cover up the crime scene of the murder where your sons are literally involved in the case?
But we do know that these Google searches happen. So let me just reiterate that somebody in Israel was searching for the name Tyler Robinson, and then the two judges, the first judge and then replaced, who were going to oversee this, as you said, the most important case of these searches have been confirmed. They were done from Israel. And if I remember right, one of these might have been the Tyler Robinson search, also searched from Israel and DC, if I remember right. But
and
I mean, this
some of these search results got wiped. So the first guy that did them, which is even more crazy because he did it live on a live stream. You're watching him do it. And then it was like 48 hours later after the story started going mega viral, people tried to go recreate those searches and they couldn't do them. So then the question becomes, who in the hell has the power and this much power over our government, over big tech, over our intelligence? I mean, all of it just points back to Israel. And then we could go through like, okay, let's just talk about coincidences. 9/11 is the next day. Okay. 2 days prior, Charlie Kirk, in a noted text message where the Turning Point team even admits to it, Charlie Kirk announces to everybody, including the most powerful Jewish donors after he just lost another $2 million Jewish donor. He says that I will not be bullied on this topic. The topic was that they wanted him to basically deplatform Tucker from the Turning Point event. So Tucker's one of the headline speakers at a lot of these events. He's a big name. He pulls in a big crowd, and they wanted him to get rid of him. They wanted to silence Tucker. Charlie Kirk said absolutely not. So he lost a $2 million donor. And then you could see it in the messages. He goes, this is one subject I'm not going to be bullied on. You know, the Jewish donors are buying into all of the stereotypes, and they're leaving me with no choice but to abandon the Israel cause outright. And he sends that into a text message. And then he says, I'm actually thinking about bringing Candace back. So
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
He got to a point, you know, when you're just getting picked on in school and then you finally stand up to the bully and you just, just let him have one right in the face because you're just so fed up with it. It seems like Charlie Kirk got to a point where he's like, hey, I've tried to play nice. I've tried to go about this my professional way, which is me going to be, nice, speaking about, hey, it's not all the Jews, it's just a secular, sect of them. It's not all these people from Israel. And he definitely got to the point where, like, no matter how he worded it, how he said it, no matter how much good that guy did for Israel, it wasn't enough. And he finally got to a point where, like, okay, you want to be like that? No matter what I say, I'm going to get attacked. Okay, let's just take the gloves off and we can do this. Okay, I'm going to cut ties no matter how that affects Turning Point. Because you look at Turning Point, right? If they lost all the Jewish donors, was it really going to bankrupt the organization? Or was this thing becoming so big, so grassroots funded, it was replacing the RNC? And you look at our history of our country, the RNC and the DNC, they pick the politicians. Like we saw that happen with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. When they wanted to get rid of Hillary, or when they wanted to get rid of Bernie, it was just like, oh, we'll just rig these primaries. And everybody just, we all knew it happened, but Bernie didn't say anything about it. He's just like, oh, this is the machine. This is how the machine works. Well, we're just going to do what the machine tells us to do. And then you've seen the same thing with Trump. The RNC was trying so hard to get DeSantis to be president over Trump. It was like they did all their resources. Fox News did their best. Elon did his best with X, and everybody was trying to do their best to platform DeSantis, and nobody was buying it. And then Trump came out on top. But then it was Turning Point who really came in and kind of played the role that the RNC was supposed to. The RNC was supposed to run to get out and vote campaigns.
Oh, he wouldn't have won without Charlie Kirk and Turning Point.
No, not a chance. Cash Patel wouldn't be FBI director without him.
Just to reiterate a little bit, did you see the interview Charlie did with Megyn Kelly where they talked about the Jewish donors? I mean, they were both furious. I mean, Charlie said, Megyn, some of the texts I've received are so vile. And then he went on to defend his position. He goes, I'm writing, Jewish theocracy, and these people just attacked me. And Megyn said the same thing. I don't know, man. And then they want to convince us. Then Bibi comes out saying, I just received this letter from Charlie about what a great friend of Israel he is. But he didn't release the whole letter. Now, I guess Candace provided the contents of the rest of the letter, which Charlie basically said, look, yes, I love Israel. I love the Israel people, but we have some issues here. And I know, what are your thoughts on the direction that Candace has taken this investigation?
I'm probably the biggest fan of Candace Owens. I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions about Candace, but when it comes to speaking truth, I think we all kind of go through it in our own kind of like awakening. Candace she worked at the Daily Wire, right? She was a huge shill for Israel and a pro-Israel advocate. And then eventually you get to a point where it's like, it seems like they keep people so busy where there's always the next breaking story and they're kind of putting investigations in front of you and giving you topics to talk about that kind of distract you from ever actually having the time to sit down, because you really have to want to wake yourself up, right? When you've had those blinders on and you're indoctrinated with this Israel first kind of agenda and this mindset, I would assume, I'd never had it, but I would assume that people have these kind of blinders on, because I had them on for Trump, right? I really thought that Trump was going to be our savior. I thought that Kash Patel was going to be our guy. I was down at the Fight for Cash Foundation with Garrett O'Boyle, the FBI whistleblower, when Kash Patel launched his own foundation, which was supposed to be to stand in the gap and protect FBI whistleblowers and whistleblowers that came out, and they were supposed to help fund them and give them some donations and help protect them and give them maybe legal defense and legal advice. Like, Kash built a foundation around protecting whistleblowers. And then the man goes in and we're like, all right, awesome. Like, he sat down, I believe it was him and Bongino with Kyle Seraphin, Garrett O'Boyle, Steve Friend, all the FBI whistleblowers, George Hill. And we're like, hey, okay, when we're going to go back, if we get Kash in there, how would you guys go about, and what would be your strategy to kind of eradicate the rot festering in the FBI, right? Those agents that just basically kneel Team 6 that took a knee there with BLM, right? Those losers. How do we get rid of these people? And Kyle Seraphin and those guys gave them like a bulletproof plan. You'll move these people out of these offices. You'll move them down to like New Mexico. You'll put them in this location. And like, basically they'll almost force themselves to quit, or they're going to have a job that's so irrelevant that, they can just ride out the rest of their career in no man's land. And eventually that nobody will ever hear from them. They're not in a position of power. They're never going to get authority. They're never going to come back basically from where they're at if they don't quit. And he didn't implement any of it. And then not only did he not implement it, he didn't bring back any of the whistleblowers. And then it got into the point where it was like 6 months later, Susie Wiles allegedly, or somebody in Trump's administration allegedly heard that, he hadn't brought back those whistleblowers. And he made an announcement that he's bringing them back. They're getting back pay. Well, guess what? They didn't. Yeah, I did say kneel Team 6 for sure.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, they didn't bring back the whistleblowers yet. Garrett O'Boyle is still suspended. He still does not have pay. And what that means is when you're an FBI agent and they take away your security clearance, you can't actively get your paycheck. So this man hasn't received a paycheck in going probably over 3.5 years now. He has 4 kids. When the FBI was moving him, they let him take a promotion. And when you get a promotion, the FBI will move your house. So you just basically call up a company, they pack up a U-Haul full of all your stuff, and they go to a weigh scale and they just weigh it, and the FBI pays the bill based on the weight. So they let him pack up all of his stuff, put it in a U-Haul, and then once he got there, his stuff hadn't even got down there yet when they walked him out first day on the job. So the FBI suspends him and then has his entire house. His daughter's bike, you remember telling me this story, his daughter was bawling her eyes out on Christmas saying, Daddy, why won't the FBI just let me have my bike? She's 4 years old. How do you answer your daughter like that? Doesn't have any money.
That story broke my effing heart, bro. I saw some in-depth interviews with him, and this is news to me. Jack, did you know this, that these whistleblowers have not been made right by Kash Patel? I had no idea.
No, not only did I not know that, but honestly, if you think about it now, it does kind of make sense the way things are going, the way there's a way we perceived things would happen and a way things are actually happening. And the way things are happening now, that kind of makes sense. I mean, we thought things were going to be different.
All of us did. We literally had, like I said, we were out there campaigning for these people. It was Kash Patel going, day one, I'm going to turn the Washington, D.C. field office into a spy museum. And we're like, yeah, spy museum. We're going to eradicate the deep state.
He wrote the freaking book, Government Gangsters.
And think about this. You cover up the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You become the most powerful man in the world, right? If he could pull out, like you're thinking about this from a self, like I don't know what you call it when you just protect yourself. What is that called?
Narcissist, I don't know. So
no, there's some smart person word, right? I'm one of those low IQ guys, right? So, but it's when you're only care about your self-interest, right? Because Kash Patel doesn't have any kids, and I think that's super weird. You're 45 years old, 50 years old. You don't have any kids. Now you're in this position where allegedly Cash is really into like the whining and dining, the finer things in life. He's got this private jet now. He flies around. He was at 2 hours after Charlie Kirk got assassinated. So your best friend, the man who literally you would not have had your position had it not been for Charlie Kirk and what his organization did as the FBI. He would have never got confirmed because they really thought that Cash was going to be the guy that went in there and eradicated all the rot in our government and was going to go after and arrest all these politicians. And it's just not the case. But they thought he would. He wouldn't have got confirmed. Okay. So Cash gets in there, wouldn't have had this position. Charlie Kirk gets his head blown off 2 hours after the assassination. You're the FBI director in the most famous assassination case of all time. You're out fine whining and dining in New York at an upscale restaurant 2 hours after the assassination. 12 hours after. So after that story broke, I believe it was like the Daily Wire or the Something Wire or the Something Post broke this story. And when they broke the story, they had got some interviews or feedback from other FBI agents. And I guess there was a point in that 1 or 2 day period that Cash called like an all hands on deck. He had 200 agents sitting on like some type of Zoom call meeting. And he basically was like berating them, like the Mickey Mouse games are over. This is not how a serious organization works. Blah 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 blah. And in that interview or the thing, he attacked the Utah FBI office because they didn't give him a photo or an image of the assassin for up to 12 hours. So you mean to tell me you're the FBI director? 2 hours later, you're just like, you watched Charlie Kirk. Like we all watched it. I was sick to my stomach. I thought it was disgusting. If that was my homie, I would have been like, within 10 minutes, I would have been like, listen, we're getting the jet fueled up. I want all hands on deck, calling whatever leads we need to. Get me a private jet, give me a charter jet. Whoever's got the fastest flight that can get me over to Utah, get me on it. And I'm going to tell you guys once, if I land and I don't have every CCTV video, I want you to call them the NSA. I want you to call them the CIA. I want every resource that we have analyzing every piece of CCTV footage. I want to know every minute, every second that killer was on that roof or whoever took that shot. I want all the details and I'll be there in an hour, right? Or I'll be there in 2 hours. By the time I land, if I don't have all of this, people are getting shit canned, okay? And I would have called, if you need FBI agents I would have brought in 15 agents from every field office within a 500-mile radius across the entire country, all hands on deck, right? Like those are the things you'd expect from an FBI director when something like this happens.
Yeah. And I thought that was the most shocking though. I mean, that he didn't do that, but then also there's a comparison where, you know how after the Butler shooting, right? The FBI wiped the crime scene almost immediately. That kind of happened here too. I mean, you're talking the guy had knee prints, elbow prints in the rocks above on the roof, on the gravel. Those were almost immediately wiped. They actually allowed, drones coming through. The same that they did in the Butler thing. Drones came around there and were looking at everything. I mean, this was before he was even assassinated. There were so many things that are off on this. I mean, did you see the video where the guy in the camouflage? Now, people say it's not some kind of, I don't subscribe to the theory that it was some kind of remote where he, remote detonated the lapel mic and it shot him in his neck. I don't subscribe to that personal theory, but I will say that the guy that's in camouflage, nowhere near the SD card. This is not the person that pulled the SD card. He runs over there immediately, grabs or hands something to the guy that's right there, and then the guy runs in the back. There is actually a video of one of the spectators running towards the shots, running towards where Charlie Kirk was shot, and he actually gets video of this guy. You can see there's something in his hand. You can't see what it is, but he runs all the way to the back. And then what do you make of the fact though that nobody tried to stop the bleeding? You see 4 people carrying this
craziest.
guy. 4 people carrying this guy to the SUV. These are security officers that have basic first aid training. You would know to stop.
Yeah, every combat medic. I mean, the first thing you do. I mean, I know I'm a civilian. You'd put pressure on the wound with your hand. You'd stick your fingers in there if it's an artery. None of them had any blood on them. And then I don't get it. We know there was an autopsy. There had to be an autopsy. How does it benefit, or how would it hurt the case, as Cash says, if they just released? Yes, we found bullet fragments from a 30-06.
And that's just not possible. It's not possible. I'm sorry. A 30-06 from 200 yards away is not going to get stopped by your neck. It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to get stopped by your neck.
A gentleman did a video just like 3 days ago. It just got published, right? This black guy takes a 30-06 and he goes at 150 yards. So allegedly, the shooter, Tyler Robinson, would have been at about 125 to 130 yards out. Some say it's even at 115. Okay. So this guy goes to 150 yards out. He takes a giant pork rind, and this thing's like this thick, right? It's like the size of a melon, basically.
Like a pork shoulder.
Yeah, pork shoulder. And he sets that in front of a 1/2-inch steel plate And then behind that, he tapes two 2-liters together behind it, right? The bullet goes, and he takes 3 different rounds of 30-06, all the way down to like the smallest one, which is weird. And the 30-06 bullets are normally giant. This one is like half the size. So it's a little tiny little 30-06 bullet, a blackout, whatever, just to show, okay, I'm going to shoot these 3 different shots. Each bullet blows through the pork shoulder, blows through the plate of steel, and then blows up the 2-liter. So they're telling us that this guy magically has the bones of steel, which I think is the dumbest thing ever. It's like the JFK magic bullet. Do you ever see the trajectory of the JFK bullet?
Oh,
It goes in him, somehow hits the back of a seat, ricochets up, comes back, goes through him again.
Comes through his wrist.
And the shooter's supposedly behind him, but his head goes back as he gets shot.
Yes, exactly. And that was actually William Cooper, who was the first man. It took him 16 years to get that video. And the video that we all watched and everybody's seen was some news video, but it was cropped, and it was cropped out to show you didn't get to see the driver of it. But then after you get the whole video, you literally see what looks like the driver turn around after he's been shot from the back and then blow. Like, because Kennedy, his wife was like, Jackie was like holding him, like as he got shot the first time, she was like soothing him. And then all of a sudden the guy in the front seat turns around and blows his head off. And then Jackie tries to climb out. I think Jackie thought they were going to shoot her. She was literally trying to climb out.
She actually said, and I don't believe it, she actually said she reached back there to get a piece of his skull. Those were her words, but I don't know if I believe that.
No, hell no. She wasn't. How would you know his skull went back?
She's like, I saw his skull and I was reaching, I climbed on the back of the car to grab it.
That was the first thing you thought. Like your instincts were like, I'm going to jump out of a car. I think you were jumping out because you thought they were going to kill you.
You're right about the driver, though. I saw that same thing.
And you see what William Cooper wrote that book, Behold the Pale Horse. And if you haven't heard the audiobook from me, you should really listen to it because it's absolutely stunning. And what he talks about in there, he talks about that they used the weapon was some type of sophisticated gas-powered gun, right? Some air gas-powered weapon that they were able to shoot Charlie Kirk with that didn't put out any smoke, barely didn't have any much recoil. And then we talk about, well, now we're talking in 2025, like the advanced military technology that we all know our government has. I mean, they have killer drones that are the size that they can fit in your palm of your hand. And this guy goes to grab it, and this all AI, and the drone backs itself up. And then it comes in, and then it lands in his hand. He puts his hand out, it lands in it, and then he takes it and he throws it out in the crowd, and this thing goes, and it comes back, and he's got a dummy over there, right? They got this dummy, and he goes, pop, and it puts a kill shot right in the dummy's head, and the drone just drops right there. And
they developed the heart attack gun in the 50s, so they got crazy stuff now.
So just imagine. So we talk about the lapel mic, right?
Yeah.
So Blake Bednar is the journalist he was the one who broke the original story about the kid getting on the roof and in a sprint in 3 seconds. So we know that without any question, whoever took that shot was on that roof, was literally in a full sprint in less than 3 seconds. So that almost makes it impossible. I mean, you're some inexperienced lone trans shooter dude on a roof with a long rifle that you've probably only shot a handful of times. You're going to take the perfect shot and somehow be up before the people that are standing right next to Charlie Kirk have even realized, oh shit, he's been shot. We need to hit the deck. This man is in a full sprint. And when you go back and you scrub the video, because inside the cafeteria, you see the man running across the roof. Okay. And you see that man is running. And as he's running, you're watching the crowd duck down. Okay. So that means that if you go to the outside and you watch and you go, well, how long did it take the crowd to crouch down from the time he got shot? It's exactly 3 seconds. So in under 3 seconds, this man is in a full on sprint across the roof of the low C building. And you go, how is that possible? Like that doesn't make sense, let alone with a 30-06 that this magic bullet that somehow Charlie Kirk stopped with his neck. None of it adds up.
And how did he get the rifle in and how did he get it out? They still haven't explained that.
And then there's the text messages that were almost made for TV, hey, I'm the guy that did it and this is how I did it.
And I hope that I don't get caught because the FBI director, he's the best director in the history of the FBI. And I'm really like, that's the only thing that didn't say basically, right?
Here's what gets me, Ryan. I had become the last 6 months before the election, a really big fan of the Dan Bongino show. I hadn't listened to it that much before, but he was breaking stuff that nobody else was. I mean, he really was. He seemed like, it's like, God, I love this guy. I mean, he's saying the things that need to be said. I'm just stunned that he's part of this, what seems to be just the same old corrupt FBI. And now let me ask you, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Could it be, because I heard someone postulate this, that, for 100 years, there's been no significant reform at the FBI and that this snake has grown and the corruption is just right, and that it's going to take them time to dismantle it. Do you buy that? How do you see that?
No, because what I laid out earlier with the whistleblowers, the Kyle Seraphin, the Gero
Right.
Boyles, like they give you a step-by-step process where if you actually wanted to do that, these would be the first things that you would do. Okay.
Yeah.
Was it 3 months later, the dude who was raiding Melania's panty drawer at the Mar-a-Lago raid was actually the dude that was like flying around with cash on the private jet. So
Right.
like you can't make it up. And then you look at Bongino, and I didn't even know this. Bongino was Obama's Secret Service.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
In
He
photos.
was.
So Obama was, getting BJs by a gay dude called Larry Sinclair, allegedly.
Yeah.
And they were smoking
And
crack.
doing whiff. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like, okay, was Bongino present then? You look at the Clintons and how many times Clinton just didn't go to Epstein's Island by himself. He would have had to have full
True.
Secret Service detail there. They're always, even after they're
So would
president.
Obama. Yeah, exactly.
So who is these Secret Service agents? Where are they at? And what are they bound by? Like what type of non-disclosures, what type of agreements do they have to, are they not allowed to? Is there NDAs? Like you just think of that and you just think like, well, maybe I have an NDA, but when you're molesting children, when
Mhm.
you're having sex with underage girls on Epstein's jet and we're Secret Service and we're in the front of the jet and you go to the back room with these girls that are underage, like at what point does the NDA just doesn't cut it? Okay. And I think that these people are groomed into these positions and you obviously have that mindset, right? Like if you're willing to watch somebody smoke crack and go get BJs by a dude, Big Mike's not a chick, right? Like
Right.
you're the Secret Service. Like you can only be around Michelle for probably, I don't know, I would assume maybe 30 minutes before you're like,
Mhm. Well, they're not going to pick these people unless they know that they're cool, if you will, unless they know
Yep.
that they're going to keep quiet about what they do. But now, me and James talk a lot, almost every episode, it seems like, about justice and how we don't get any,
Lack
about how
of
the
it,
Republican side, has not been getting any justice. But we happen to subscribe to the theory that a lot of these people, a lot of them are paid off, they're bribed, but then a lot of them are also blackmailed. Because you got to think, or not just blackmailed, but threatened, like actually threatened. Because I mean, you got to think that these people are people that nobody knows who they are. You could be beside them in a red light. You don't know if that's the person that's trying to kill you. There are people, they can get to anybody. I mean, they can show you, if I can get to Charlie Kirk and kill him in front of 2 million people, I can get to you and your home and your kids. So I mean, if they
or
threaten
to a
you,
U.S. president. Yeah.
they can get to the president and barely miss him, and probably they might have even done that on purpose just as a warning. Who knows? But I'm saying that if they can do that, they can get to you, the FBI director. They can get to the assistant director, and they can very easily show you how they can do that. They can go in your house, rearrange your shit, and say, hey, I was just in your house with your kids. You didn't even know it. So I mean, there's many ways. So we have to describe that. Not only is it bribery and blackmail, but there's also probably a lot of threatening going on there, because people don't just crusade one day, go into the government to crusade, and then go silent.
Well, but Ryan, it seems to me that your theory is more that the allure of power has corrupted some of these men like Cash.
Well, it's everything. I mean, not everybody.
No,
can
I'm
be
just curious.
blackmailed.
What are your thoughts on that, Ryan? What?
it's like, I think it was Iron Rand who said absolute power. Maybe it was George Orwell. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And you look at somebody like Cash, you don't have children. You don't have a legacy. You are not leaving this country or trying to leave this country in a better position for anybody besides yourself, right?
True.
So you look at somebody like Hoover, who stayed in power for 50 years as the FBI director. I mean, that's a powerful role. You inherently are the man. Like none of the psyops, none of these operations can be carried out on U.S. soil without the FBI being involved in it. And now, like I said, you cover up this position. Same with the Epstein files, right? Like if you know and you actually have access to those Epstein files, Cash now has them. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So does Bongino. Okay.
Yep.
So you would then inherently have blackmail on the most powerful people in the world. You are now untouchable, and you will put yourself into a position where literally you will be up there with the royals at some point, right? You're flying around in a private jet. Like think of the lifestyle. You go from just being this Cash dude who does some podcasts and has to go out and beg and raise money to raise $100,000 for his Fight with Cash Foundation. You're not living a lifestyle. You're not getting on a private jet, right? You're not rubbing shoulders with the bigwigs. But now all of a sudden you're sitting at everybody wants to be your friend. Every single entity, right? Every single organization. We could go really deep. I mean, depending on how far you want to go down this rabbit hole, is there something that they're blackmailing them? Or is there something else that they're not telling us, right? Like, I mean, I could really go down some crazy rabbit holes if you guys want to, but like,
go for it. Go. We love crazy rabbit holes on this show.
Yeah, that's why we're called Secret America. Yeah,
that's right, bro.
So
no, and I mean that seriously.
NASA's never been audited, right? Never.
Yep.
Really?
Never. So
well, they're part of the Defense Department. Yeah.
Yep. So NASA's never been audited. Okay. And we've been supposed to go to the moon for however many years that we never gone to Mars, never gone to the moon. And then all of a sudden, Elon comes out and SpaceX is doing, 10 times more advanced than what NASA has with our entire budget. The houses in Maui couldn't get $700 a month or $700 from our government, period, a one-time check for $700. But yet NASA had a $26 billion budget, and somebody went to cut, like when they talk about like the cuts in budgets, it was like they were going to cut like $1 billion from NASA, and Joe Biden like lost his mind. It was like NASA is this untouchable force. And I asked yourself, well, what is NASA? What has it done for us? Why are we continuing to fund it? Like nobody can answer these questions. And I just start going into, well, is there something, some technology, some advanced civilizations, something that they're hiding from us that these, that these politicians aren't really the highest upper echelon of organizations in this world, right? Is there something more powerful? Are they getting invited into some type of club or some type of organization that we don't really see or we don't know? That would be the only logical thing that I could ever think of. Is I don't think it's just blackmail, right? I don't think blackmail is necessarily powerful enough, but we know how these blackmail operations work, right? Like you don't have to be compromised. Like,
what about money laundering?
Money laundering. Every one of these politicians should be in prison. You can't tell me that Gavin Newsom, a man that's never produced anything, never had a job, never had a business. This dude is just grifted off the American taxpayer his entire life, and he's probably got a net worth of probably $100 million, okay? Ted Cruz is worth like 30 million or something crazy like that, or 10 million. And it's like these politicians never produce anything, and they're multimillionaires. They live a lifestyle that we can't even wrap our heads around. Like a senator, when they go out of this country, they get a full-on motorcade. Right? They are met at airports by private security. They're escorted around. They're wined and dined. They're treated like gosh damn hero, like celebrities.
I got to reel you back in. You're talking about NASA. Are you saying that like the hacker, Gary McKinnon, who hacked into NASA from England and found a U.S. Space Force, found a list of officers who were extraterrestrial officers, and he got caught, and the U.S. Intel Department for years tried to get him over here to put him in prison for treason? Is that the direction you're going with this? That there's
I'm saying that, so I had a gentleman by the name of Flat Earth Dave. This guy is one of the
number one
Dave, podcasters. Yeah. So he begged me for like 6 months to come onto my show, especially when my LFA TV show, my show got to be like the second largest show outside of the owners on LFA TV. And this guy for like 3 months was like, bring me on. I'm like, dude, I'll go down any rabbit hole with you. You want to talk about conspiracies? I'm just not doing the flat earth. Number one, if it is true, like who cares? And like, I'm not lying. There's no way that the earth is flat, right? And so I sat on there for 3 months, and one day he reached out. He goes, I hear you're into Bitcoin. I go, yeah, I keep all my wealth in Bitcoin. I keep my entire life savings in Bitcoin. He goes, how about this? And the Bitcoin was 33,000 at the time. He goes, I will give you 3 Bitcoin if you bring me on your podcast and you just prove one fact about what they taught us in school about the earth being a ball and space and NASA. And I go, done. This can be the easiest $100,000. I go, you got it, right? Send me a screenshot of it. He goes, I got it. I said, all right, let's do this. Bring him on. For like the first 30 minutes, I was like question after question. He's like, but you got to give me time because he's got this green screen set up behind him, kind of like I do here. So you ask him a question. He's like, boom, he's doing his thing. And he's like, okay, here, this is how this works. This is how this works. I sat there for about 45 minutes before I go, just give me the download. Then I sat there for 3 hours and just was boom, question after question after question after question after question. And after 3 hours, I go, I don't know what the hell Earth is. I go, it is not a ball. Right? Water does not bend around a circle. We are not living on a circle ball traveling through space, a space vacuum. You start looking at the NASA photos where the astronauts got the shoes on the wrong feet, like the most famous of the astronaut working on the space station. And then you realize like they published the first photo and the guy had his feet, he had 2 left shoes on. Okay. And then I could go on. How about just talking about
water?
You
look at every other planet though. You look at the moon. I mean, you can tell that they're not flat.
We don't know what the moon is, but the sun, I don't think the sun is a million billion miles away. I think it's in our atmosphere. You just look at water, right? You put water in a ball. What is water doing right now in this container? It's finding level. You go put a level on the wall. It's got a little air bubble in it. It's finding level. Water always conforms to the shape of a container. It's how the hell does water bend around a ball? It doesn't. It's impossible. Water doesn't bend around a ball. So then I'll ask you another one. Okay. So you talk about, a solar eclipse.
By the way, you don't have to convince me.
Yeah.
I've looked into this
crazy, right?
I don't ever talk about it, but
tell me you guys aren't subscribers to the ice wall and stuff.
No,
please.
but the craziest to me is that people say, okay, you can see a ship on the ocean go over the horizon, yet you bring out any of the new cameras that have like a high resolution focus, it brings it right back into view. And you can do the math. What is that?
It's every 10 miles is 66 feet of curvature.
Yeah. So for every 10 miles is 66 feet of curvature, yet you can see like 80 miles from Michigan. You can see the Chicago skyline. It should not be possible. It should not be possible. And the only explanation I've heard, like I heard a weatherman say, oh, it's a temperature inversion. It's like a mirage. But I'm like, but wait a minute. You can see it every day. I mean,
what would be the point?
I didn't want to go down this road, but
what would be the point of that?
So this is my favorite question. What would be the point of it? Okay, so let's just say the Earth is bigger than we thought, right? So Admiral Byrd was the first one who went and explored and charted Antarctica. And he was the one who told us that it was going to be the archaeological discovery of the century. Like every country from around the world was going to have a base there doing research because it's this magical, fascinating place. And he found a piece of land that was larger than the United States above Antarctica, and it was warm. Right? This man's plane crashed and he came back with frostbite on his fingers and survived in Antarctica for like 2 weeks somehow in a crash plane in like 1920s without any survival, like not without any, but like, you know, definitely not enough to last for 2 weeks. And the stories that this man came back with were absolutely insane. So what would be the purpose? Okay. So prior to like the 1900s, right? Let's maybe go back to even the 1800s. If government got too big, right? And you lived in a town, a city, a state, and government got too big, what could you do? You could just pack up and choose dangerous freedom, right? You could always just get in your horse, your buggy, and your cattle, and you could just migrate west, find some land. And once you got far enough away that you didn't have to hear or see, or your government wasn't going to be encroaching on you, you had all of the freedom that you wanted. You could always just up and move. Okay. And now we've gotten to a point now where every continent, every area, it's pretty much all charted. It's all territory. It's all expensive. It's all real estate that's controlled by a few single powers, right? And you can't move anywhere. There's nowhere to escape to. You mean to tell me what if there was a piece of land the size of United States past the ice wall and we could all go there? How many of us would choose to stay here if there was a continent? So you do
believe in the ice wall?
Well, so I believe the ice wall as in like the edge of the earth? No. I believe in that there is land beyond the ice wall, and the ice wall is basically as far as us, you know, peons are allowed to travel.
With all the sleuths out there, with all the James, you're on mute. With all the sleuths out there, with all the questions out there, why has nobody taken pictures of this ice wall or anything?
Yeah, there's thousands of pictures. The ice wall is always there. It's 200-foot tall ice wall that basically engulfs, like when the Arctic Ocean or whatever hits
and
there.
You have pictures of this?
Yeah, you can just pull it up on Google.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, so you could Google you just go on YouTube and just search, you know, Antarctic ice wall, and this giant ice wall. We can't go within 200 miles of it, brother.
That's true. You can't go to Antarctica, yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Even you go there, like they're like, oh, people go to Antarctica. Like I've seen my aunt went there on a dude. You go on a boat and they take you to this little like island and you see some penguins and they say that that's Antarctica, but you're not going. You know, like that's.
So
like,
do you believe there's intelligent life? We have actually a great question from the chat. Do you believe there's intelligent life beyond this wall?
Absolutely, I do. That's why I think I don't believe that aliens exist. You heard Tim Butchett and our government talking about that. Our military, we know this is a fact. Our military has filmed crafts that are moving at 500 knots per second underwater. And then, you know, Joe Rogan's like, Tucker's like, well, it's spiritual. And Joe's like, well, what do you mean spiritual? And he said, well, we just, it's, you know, our military's filmed these crafts moving at 500 knots per second underwater. And Joe's like, oh yeah, I've seen those old, like crappy videos. And Tucker's like, no, these are like HD, brand new cameras, advanced military equipment, and we're filming these crafts that are moving 500 knots under 500 knots per second underwater.
How come we never see these beings?
And Rogan goes, well, why
how come we never see it?
Yeah. And he goes, well, here, let me finish this. He goes, why do you keep calling it spiritual? And he goes, because it defies the laws of physics. What we man have created, right? Like if I shoot you underwater with a 45 Magnum, right? And you're 12 feet away from me, you can catch the bullet if it even hits you. Why? Because once the bullet leaves the gun, there's no continuous propulsion force that's pushing that bullet faster and forward underwater, okay? We as man, the fastest that we can move a craft underwater is about 40 miles per hour, 40 knots per second, or 40 knots per hour. Okay, these crafts are moving at 500 knots per second without a propulsion system. That defies all law of physics. Man can't. So then you go, okay, well, what is gravity? That's Einstein's theory of relativity, meaning the math has never mathed, meaning the most advanced AI systems in the world cannot prove Einstein's theory about mass attracts mass. It's the theory of relativity. and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. But what you can do, and what they have done in these flat Earth documentaries, is everything has an electrical magnetic charge, right? You have a positive and a negative electrostatic charge. And based off of your body and your charge, you jump off a building, that magnetic charge pulls you down to the earth. It's not really gravity. So when people talk about these anti-gravity devices, what the advanced technology and how these crafts can move at these, speeds like this is because if you have the ability, let's just say, to suspend your charge, right? Like if you have a positive, negative charge, you would and you suspend it, you become buoyant, okay? And everything in this craft becomes buoyant. That means when you're moving at 1,000 miles per hour in a car and you slam on the brakes, everything in the vehicle slams forward because everything in the vehicle, it's your magnetic charge, right? Like your motion, your momentum, your physics are flying you forward. Well, when you suspend everything in the craft, that means you go from 1,000 miles per hour to 0 miles per hour without any friction. Okay, so these crafts that are suspending this, they're able to travel through this water by somehow suspending what we would consider gravity. And then they have the ability to move at these crazy speeds. And this is technology that I think has been on this earth for a very long time. It's how they've created the pyramids. It's right. It's how everything functions. Like you have people.
I got to know though, how come we never see these beings?
Let me answer. Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
There are so many reports of we actually do. It's not like you and I can go out and see them, but thousands of people have not only seen them, they've been abducted. I mean,
but there's no actual evidence or photo evidence of any of this.
Well, hey, but
what about Travis? Take the Travis Walton case for one. I mean, there were 5 witnesses to that, Jack. 5 people saw him go up in the craft. They all
eyewitness testimony is wholly unreliable.
Okay, how about this, Jack? We have cloaking technology. Like China, you've seen the cloaking strips, like you hold this towel thing in front of you, and
I saw that part. Yeah.
Okay, so they if they have cloaking technology now, like think about how long of our military's had this cloaking technology, right? Like they have the ability to these, and they're traveling at 1,000 knots.
But this is like asking people to believe in something they can't see, like almost like a religion type thing.
Well, you can't see air. Are you surrounded by air? Can't see
but air is not a physical thing. Air is just something that you can, you can.
Physical
it's
thing.
It's not something that you can reach out and touch. If this is a being, you should be able to reach out and touch. You should be able to see it.
Look, David Brush and several other high-ranking whistleblowers in the military-industrial complex have testified that we have had contact with extraterrestrial.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that have things to say.
Well, when Trump created Space Force, right? I forget the general's name, and I'll send you the link because it's actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, it's in my highlights, and you just look down for the guy that's speaking at, I believe it's Hillsdale College, and this is one of the generals from Space Force, and he tells us that we right now in America, we have the technology, and it's not developmental technology. We already have it. It's basically at our fingertips to basically transport any human from anywhere on the face of the earth to anywhere else on the face of the earth in under an hour. That technology is already out there. We have it. And then he talks about free energy, right? And we're talking about energy coming from space, he calls it. And he goes, imagine your cell phone being able to trickle charge. Imagine your car as you're running. It's just tragic charging because it's pulling energy from the atmosphere,
he found
right?
That a long time ago.
Okay, so we have this technology. He goes, and here's the thing about technology. He goes, he who controls the technology controls the power. And what's the laws of the universe, right? He who has the power basically writes the laws. So you either have it or you don't have it. He goes, and it doesn't have to be a big nation that's going to develop this. It could be some small place like New Zealand. And if New Zealand gets to it and develops it first, well, they're going to have all the power. So, right, he's basically encouraging us. I think we're at, I thought we were going to see it under Trump. I thought this big veil was going to be ripped off. And like,
me too.
He put out the things with the medical beds like 2 weeks ago as a meme. Basically, you get in this bed, and it locks you in this chamber. And then over like an hour period or a day period, you stay in it. And then you basically, it heals everything in your body. And then you look at, people like Bill Gates and like Klaus Schwab and Putin and Xi were talking about living. They were literally joking, talking about how they're going to live to 150 now. Right. So, I mean, and you ask, like, how would they lie? How do we think about, we all believe vaccines. We were all and the V word, we were all injecting our children with these things for how many years? Literally like 50 years. And the results are so damaging. And they're so dangerous, and they're still doing it to this day.
That has more to do with propaganda than anything else.
Same with NASA. That's where I'm going with this NASA lie, right? The idea behind this is, number one, so you think about NASA, like, right? Let's just imagine if they're not going to space. Okay, imagine what you can do. Okay, you could rebuild the entire city of Maui for under $1 billion. Okay, and we're giving these organizations billions of dollars, and if they're not really going to space, it becomes a black op budget that nobody's auditing, nobody's ever tracking. Imagine what you could do and develop it underground. You look at Elon Musk and the boring technology and these boring machines, and the size of them are just ginormous. And you look at some of these deep underground military bases, and they're so big, they're bigger than cities, dude. You look at these and you're just like, the people look like.
But if you have money
Richard Sauer's written several books on it. I'm sure you've seen him, Ryan. His work on DUMBs, deep underground military base. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're all across the country.
But basically, politicians are people that are inherently narcissistic people that are out for themselves. I just don't see them, if they have black ops budgets and all this money, building stuff that would be like that rather than laundering the money back to themselves the way they have been doing.
Well, you also get to the point where you realize that not everybody's read on it. Was it Nixon? What president was it that went to go to Area 51 and they wouldn't let him in there? And he literally went and said, I'm going to get the Texas National Guard and I'm going to be at your gates tomorrow. So you're either going to let me into this facility. I am the president. I am the commander in chief. You cannot not read me into anything, or I'm going to take this facility by force. So it's either going to happen one way. And they ended up bringing him in there. Even presidents are not read in to some of these operations. So this is like, I don't think it's every single politician, but here's my logic. Here's where I was kind of going with this from the very beginning. You're Kash Patel. You're coming in guns blazing, like we're going to eradicate the deep state. And then all of a sudden you're pulled into a room where they show you something so bizarre, something so mind blowing that you go, this is how the world really works. This is all one big operation because we're building something much bigger. We're saving millions of whatever they convince you. Like, it doesn't even have to be real. Like they could just show you enough and tell you this is where we're actually, like, you might think you're really saving humanity by playing along and playing this role, right? Mm-hmm. That would be the only logical thing that I could think of outside of these guys just being skull bastards, just rot, just festering, just evil people, right? I actually, that's what you said about Bongino. Like, we all thought Mike Johnson, we were all advocating for Speaker McCarthy. We're like, MAGA Mike, this dude's voted with Trump 100%. He's going to be the most MAGA, most base dude. Matt Gaetz is like, yeah, we got you, Speaker McCarthy. Stick it up yours. And then he goes into the skiff with Paul Ryan. He comes out, looks white as a ghost, walks down those steps, goes and convenes Congress and passes a bill for Israel. First day, first thing on the job, first thing Speaker Mike Johnson does.
I remember the skiff thing. Yeah.
Our tax dollars. And you're just going, so either they have technology where they're literally able to hack your brain and you just become a slave to them, or they literally have dirt on everybody. You think they've surveilled everybody since we were kids, since dick pics were a thing, right? Every politician, every dude, every guy out there has probably sent one.
Everybody has skeletons.
They know what porn you're into. So, like, let's talk about how they compromise. I know we're going to run a little bit over, but let's just talk about how they compromise people, right? So this is how China used to do it a while back. They would get a house and they would buy a house next to one of our politicians that they wanted to compromise, right? And they post up, and that would give them the ability to hack in and access all of the communications from in that house. So they got your kids' phones, they got your wife's phone, they got your computer, they got your laptop. They know what porn you're into. They know what type of chicks you're into because of the porn you watch. They know what kinky fetishes you're into. And they just sit there. Maybe you're a single guy and they just wait for you to have a bad day. And you're like, I'm going to text my buddies. I'm going to go out and have a drink. Do you want to go? And everybody's like, no. Oh, well, I'm going anyway. So they follow you to a bar, and in walks a cute girl, right? She's your type. They already know what you're into. She knows what you like. So she sparks up a conversation. Every politician thinks they're God's gift to earth, right? And you see these undercover videos where they get busted talking to these girls and these guys. They think they're a god. They think they're the coolest guy ever. And every guy wants to think that the hot girl's into him, right? They think she's cool, right?
The stripper loves you. Yep.
You realize it wouldn't be hard for a girl that's hot to get one of these politicians to invite her back to the house. Mm-hmm. She invites you back, you make her a drink, or she just basically shoots you up with roofies you, whatever. The next day you wake up and there's a manila folder next to you. You didn't have to be a pedophile. The idea is that they bring in an underage kid, they get into bed with you, they take some skanky photos, and then you wake up with a manila folder, a headache, and a cell phone. And it says, keep this cell phone on you at all times. We'll be in touch. We now
sounds like Criminal Minds or the Blacklist. That's what it sounds like. Same kind of thing happened there, where they did the same kind of thing like you're talking about. You know, they would do that kind of, they would drug that kind of person. They would put them in there, and then, all of a sudden he'd wake up next to a gay prostitute that was strangled to death with his fingerprints on this prostitute, coke all over his chest, and the police knocking on the door.
Yep. That's exactly it.
So, you know what? I'm really a subscriber to your theory, Ryan. And I got to say, you blew my mind today. I've gone down the Flat Earth rabbit hole. I know Flat Earth Dave. I've watched all the videos, 200 Reasons the Earth is Not, but what is that guy's name? He's great. But anyway, I do think there is technology. I've been following the UAP, UFO thing for decades. I think there's stuff out there that would literally blow our minds, and they are releasing it very slowly. Disclosure's happening, but it's at a snail's pace. And I think you're right. If people like Cash and Dan, if they're shown the reality of the world, it would just blow your mind. I mean, it would literally blow your mind, because we're not living in reality. We truly live in the Matrix, don't you?
Then why is the world the way it is? Why couldn't it be even a little bit better?
Exactly. And then, so let me land it on this. Okay. How many times has there been a solar eclipse in the last 3 years? And the answer is 3. I used to say this on 2 years. In a 2-year period, right before Trump was elected, we had 3 solar eclipses. You guys remember the last one where Israel was sacrificing the red heifer?
Yes.
And, like, they were opening stargates. Okay. Two happened prior to that weren't nearly as popular, right? But in that same period of time, how many countries went to the moon? Russia, India, and China have all did moon. India's was a really famous one because it was like the most animated fake moon landing ever. And like the Indians were like, yeah. And it was like, everybody was like mocking them. And then they tried to backpedal and like, they told us it was real at first. And then after we obviously were like, dude, this is CGI. Then they came back and said, oh, it was CGI, but we wanted to give like the reaction of how we actually seen it when we watch it. So we replayed it and we acted like that. Okay. So now my next question is, okay, you go to the doctors to get a colonoscopy and they're sticking a camera up your bunghole. Okay. Scientists film everything from deep water dives to explorations. You mean to tell me not one country was going, how cool would it be to film a solar eclipse from the moon? You mean to tell me the moon blocks out the sun and not one time in all of history has any craft or any device ever went up there and filmed the solar eclipse from the moon? And you go, from a logical citizen standpoint, you go, it is absolutely mathematically improbable for us to have never filmed that. So if we really did go to space and a solar eclipse really what it is, and then you watch a solar eclipse and you go, there's no moon. Like the last solar eclipse, somebody filmed the moon off to the side, and as this black dot just blocks out the sun. But when you're watching it, it's literally just a black dot. You're not seeing the moon. You don't see any shapes of the moon. You don't see any craters on it. You just see a black ball that comes and blocks out the sun, and that's all we get.
So why isn't there a camera on Earth? I mean, why don't we see high definition pictures of Earth all the time? We never do. NASA's openly admitted that they have never taken a photo of Earth. And let me be very clear on that. You go onto their website, and what do they tell you? It says image. And then you look up at the dictionary definition of image, and it says a recreation of a photo. Okay, NASA says that there's NASA's own reporting. They called it the Blue Marble scandal when it broke. Right.
The guy broke the story.
SpaceX's photos.
What's that?
Didn't SpaceX take some photos of Earth?
I don't know. I just know that NASA is never taking a photo of Earth, right?
Yeah.
So they're all recreations, right? So they're literally saying that, and they couldn't take one. Nobody's taking one because when you get up, it's not a ball. It's like every balloon, they call it moving the globe post, right? At first it was, 30 or 40,000 feet you had to go up. And then it was, our fighter jets are now flying at 60,000. So then it was like 70,000 feet you had to go up to see the curvature. And then it was 100,000.
With your own eyes, though, you can see like whether it's the moon, the sun, or whether it's other planets, you can see that they're round. You can see that it's not flat. So have you ever
went out with a telescope and actually looked at the other planets?
I have.
When you can see them, and you're 100% positive that you've seen a ball.
That's what it looks like to me. I mean,
it looks round, but you can't make out the 3-dimensional.
Yeah, no, it's not high definition, but you can see that it's round.
But just because that's like, just because the moon is round, why the hell does that mean the Earth has to be round?
Why would we be the only thing not round in the entire solar system?
I don't think that there is. So I think when you actually zoom in on these planets, you actually zoom in with the right telescope. They're just like, it looks like this, it almost looks like a star. It looks like this gassy it doesn't look like a round physical object that we're landing on. Everything from Mars is fake.
We see though, if it's like the black dot, right? The moon that you see at night is not a black dot. So what is the difference between that and the eclipse thing?
I don't know. When you watch the eclipse happen, you'd think you would see, like even in the daytime, when you see the moon out in the sky in the daytime, it's white. You can see it. It's just,
Here's something I would recommend you watch. It's it's a film called The Principle. And it's about, Galileo's principle that, where Earth is just this ball hurtling out in space. Well, scientists realized they had to create things called dark energy and dark matter because the calculations didn't work. Mm-hmm. But these recent scientists, the most high-ranking physicists in the world, have discovered that when you put Earth at the center of the universe, like a very special place, you don't need dark energy and you don't need dark matter. It suggests And I watched this film, The Principle. It's blew my mind. These physicists say this suggests that Earth is not some random planet and all these billions of planets, that it's a very, very special place in the universe. And it, quite honestly, a couple of them said it frightens us. We don't know what that means.
Then why are we going from the center of the universe to not the center of the universe and now back to the center of the universe? Why didn't it just stay the center of the universe?
Back to the center of the universe.
They say the sun is the center of the universe and everything's orbiting around the sun.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, why at the beginning the Earth was the center of the universe? Everybody thought the Earth was the center of the universe. Then we go to the sun, and now people are saying it's the Earth again. Is that what? Well,
all I'm saying is the math suggests the physicists and the astronomers.
And I'm just asking questions. I'm not trying to disprove it.
No. I'm just saying that. I mean, I've looked into dark energy and dark matter. I always thought it was somewhere they made this stuff up to make their calculations work. Yet you put the Earth at the center of the universe, you don't need it anymore. Which I don't know. Watch the film. It's a fascinating film. We probably got to let you go, Ryan. Man.
Yep.
Well, I had no idea we were going down these rabbit holes, but I'm so glad we did because I love this shit, Jack.
Dude, me too, man. I eat it up, bro. It's so, well, you guys got to you got to really just bring Flat Earth Dave on your podcast one time.
Yeah.
And just let's ask him these questions. He's the pro at this. Like, I'm just a guy who's regurgitating shit that I've heard. Like, when you actually start to talk to Dave, you know, he's so good at it because he starts to ask you questions about it. Like, hey, well, how big is the Earth? How fast is the Earth spinning? And I'm like, oh shit, I don't even know. And he asks you 10 questions and you don't know any of them. And then you realize like you're trying to defend something that you don't even know what you're defending, right? Like, and it's like,
well, the only thing that I try to defend is I don't know I don't know math statistics like how fast the Earth spins. I'm just trying to defend basic, what I would consider common sense principles based on what I can see, not based on what other people tell me, you know, just based on what I can see. So that's the only reason I was asking these questions, to try to get there and see what's going on there.
I'll tell you, I've tried to get Eric Dubai on my show. I've reached out. I mean, he did a film called 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. He's one of the brightest guys, but I've followed Flat Earth Dave and watched all this. Look, I'm an agnostic. I don't know, but I'm not convinced it's a round ball. I'll tell you that as a matter of fact. I'm not convinced at all that we are a random ball spinning at 37,000 miles an hour. I don't believe it.
Flat Earth Dave has 200,000. This was like a year ago. Had over 200 active paid users on an app. The largest Bitcoin app, the Orange Pill app, I think has like 75,000 users. So like that is a big to have 200,000 paid subscribers on one application. It tells you something like that. That's just not a small niche of people that have like decided like, oh, the Earth isn't this ball. That's a large amount of people. And like my son, I'm not raising my son teaching him that space is fucking real. We mock it. We joke about flat Earth stuff all the time with my son. So it's like this next generation, we're not going. That's why I say with America, basically, right? Like we talk about Dinesh D'Souza and bring it back and kind of wrap this up, right?
Yeah.
We have so much important shit we could be facing and focusing on right here. Israel and their wars are just the never-ending, relentless cascade of distractions. It's just every day the news has something to report on. There's a reason that they're not talking about how dangerous the streets are in Chicago, or, you know, the good things that Trump did with closing the border and how many lives he saved. You know, it's like the fentanyl, right? Like they're like, oh, we got to go to war with Venezuela because Venezuelans are smuggling. How are they smuggling this fentanyl in here? Why don't we just focus on our borders? And why don't we focus on how the drugs are getting into our country and then stop that? And then we don't have to go to war with Venezuela, right? Like,
you're right. That's the whole point of all of this, actually, is to divide us, keep us distracted, so we're not focusing on the more important things. Ryan, before we go real quick, will you please let everybody know about your show and where they can find you?
Yeah, so my name's Ryan Matta. I'm an investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker. All of my films I put out for free. They're all over on X. You can see them. Sorry, the first two I put out with JJ Carroll, I had to partner with those. We had to put them behind a paywall because it was so expensive to do the operations and the investigations. But all my films are out for free. They're over on X. You guys can watch them all for free. Just go to my highlight tabs, go down there. You can go on YouTube at Ryan Matta Films is where I put all of my, Ryan Matta Media. No, Ryan Matta News is where I put all my films. And then Ryan Matta Films is where I put out my vlog style stuff. So I've went to about 20 countries over the last 40 weeks. If you guys want to see where I'm going and investigating, USAID. We were in Mexico digging up dead bodies in the cartel mass graves. I was getting smuggled across the border by cartels into Guatemala from Mexico. I go on tons of these crazy adventures. You guys can come along for the ride with me. And that's about it. Over on X is my main platform, at Ryan Matta Media over on X, and over on Rumble. I used to have a show, but I think we're changing the way that journalism is done now as far as what we're doing. So I call it just guerrilla or blitzkrieg journalism. You know, I just got my video, I've got my phone out, I got my TV next to me, and I'm literally just recording. Anytime a story breaks, I'm getting out news on it. Like before the media can even create their script or their narrative, like we've already been reporting on it. We've already got millions of views on it, and it kind of just destroys their ability to create these narratives. So that's it.
And we are the media now. And your stuff is very interesting. People definitely need to check you out because all your documentaries and everything you do, especially with, you know, traveling to the different countries, like you said, with the smuggling and things like that, it's all extremely interesting. I mean, it's very good stuff. So I hope everybody checks you out, especially, you know, on X and all your other channels. So definitely be sure to check out Ryan Matta. And James, though, before we sign off, I do want to say a quick thank you to at PsyOp Wars. He's actually been a huge supporter of ours. And, you know, if you want to support Secret America, you can do that at secretamericalive.com. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just cheering him on, man. I saw that he's saying buy you guys a coffee, man. These are the guys that you got to support. You know, this stuff is not cheap. It's not free. It takes a lot of time. I mean, we had to plan this out weeks in advance. The amount of communication that goes into trying to schedule somebody on a podcast. These guys are putting in a lot of work over here, and you got to give them the respect. And without your support, like we're deplatformed, we're demonetized, we're scraping by because we're raging against the very machine that's designed to keep us controlled. So support these guys. And I got a film coming out on CPS in November. It'll be coming out around November 24th. So I'd love to come back on your guys' podcast. Maybe we could play some clips of it and talk about it.
Love to have you on my radio show as well, Ryan. I do a local radio
James.
show here.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back too, for sure.
Sounds good.
You're the most interesting person. It's funny because we've had a lot of people on this show, but I mean, I ask questions, but I was actually interested in this shit. A lot of times I'll just ask questions to keep it moving, but this was actually some interesting shit, I must say.
Raina said earlier about 5 minutes, she's going, don't go. This is so interesting. I love it. Ryan, thank you again.
With you guys, so
yeah, it was awesome, man. It's often hanging with you. It's great hanging with Jack Danger. I'm James Clary. You've been listening to Secret America. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Secret America with Jack Danger and James Clary.